Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm back in my woods at home. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. I wanted to talk a little bit and go into an energy update, but I think I just want to go into flow and kind of give an energy update throughout the video because I don't have a lot of time. So we'll stick with that, and potentially I'll do an energy update in the next couple of days. And so this is meant to be felt, not necessarily understood on a linear basis. And so I play with words, and that is how I wield my sword, if you will, SWORD. I wield this as a way to turn the wheel, to play with the many wheels that we have in our reality, within our clock, within our gears. And it allows us to shift the color palette, the color wheel, if you will, and see things from a myriad or multi-directional spoke. And so as I speak, these words are spoken into the field, and this wheel that I wield gives me the ability to access a certain dimensional frequencies through wordplay and through quantum communication and entanglement from one perspective, that allows me to play and tango with, dance with a word reflectology, and reflects back to me a myriad, a mirrored frequency and myriad of realities in which I can view simultaneously. We all have the potential to see the angles, to see the triangles, the triangulations in geometric grid patterns that are reflected back to us in our matrix, our view or transcript of reality. How it is that we view reality, though, is based on our own complexity and our ability to let go of the need to understand all of the variations and triangulations that are encapsulated within our reality. Sometimes it is about us blending and merging with our own view of artistry, changing our own palette, and reflecting back to us that which it is we wish to see. And this is a play on words, and we understand there is a different way of understanding the words that we are expressing in this way, in this wave form. And as we form these words in this way, it creates a triangulation formation, an angle of formation, and a way to register language sets and frequency combinations that give us the access to different distributions of configurations of how it is that we communicate. And let us play with this for a minute. So guys, I'm kind of playing with this because I'm being called to really just jump in and go crazy with the word play. Then part of me wants to sit and break down and share what these words actually mean. So I'm hearing decisions. So what I'm going to do is just go into the wordplay and then kind of let it rip. And then I might kind of explain what I'm talking about for those of you who want that explanation. So I'm going to do a little light language rift. Slowly drifting. Okay. And as we allow this transcribing to flow, as we allow the transcript to flow off the tongue, if you will, as we allow this tongue-in-cheek combination to play with us, and we get cheeky with our word language and the way in which we play with this frequency and this interdominion of language acoustics. We allow these different frequencies to play and build upon one another, and we can build up the layers of how this language allows us to tap into a layer cake, if you will, of different patterns and triangulations that align us with the astrology, the astronomy, the astronomic layers that we have access to. The okay, this is all a play on words. The astral, the astrology, the astronomic. So as I say this, I'm being called to break it down a little bit. So I play with words. And from my perspective, words are meant to be played with because they were created to communicate, to create communication, and to create with. So the way in which we communicate and the letter alchemy that we all speak with, the verbiage that we use, the actions that we take now, the nouns in which we play with, are layered and patterned in a certain type of word recognition memory bank. And the more that I speak in a layer cake of frequency, the more people, literally the more numbers of people, can hear different things coming through. Some people will not, it won't make any sense, but they'll feel a certain way by tuning into it. Other people will listen and ping right off of what I'm saying. I'm doing this because what I'm told time and time again is we have this, okay, I'm being called to draw it. Okay, I will. No, I won't. I'm actually too tired. I will draw it at a different time. Bottom line is I'm seeing astrology. If you look at, anybody else not sleeping well? If you look at astronomy and astrology and you look at a chart, a natal chart, for example, it looks like a crystal latticework structure. It's layers upon layers of different planets that represent different vibrations. And depending on when you were born and where you were born, and of course, this is not my area of expertise. You can check out Quirky Cosmo and or look at other people who I might follow on social media. But I like her stuff. She does a lot of helpful astrology pieces of information that give us an idea of what our, what we're accessing, what it looks like, what the frequency behind it is, what the timing is associated with. And our language and our words are very similar. So when I have a word that has a certain code that is in it, it is actually connected to multiple portals, multiple timelines, multiple reality subsets. And so I use these words to ping off in the brain, and that causes certain synapses to fire, not only in whoever's listening, but as I speak this language, this in context or out of context, to bring it into a different context, a contextual alignment, and that's a play on words. It creates a sounding board. It creates a motherboard if you look at a computer. And the reason I am told time and time again by my higher self, my guidance team, that I do it this way is because it causes us to get out of a linearity that many of us have been trained to think from. So we're really being encouraged right now to get our left and right hemispheres of our brain connected. Get out of just the logic. Get out of just the right brain airy-fairy. Line them up, work with them together, and utilize both sets, meaning left, right hemispheres, our heart, our entire body. And when I say this, I see our entire body of astrology, our entire body of science, our entire body of language, so that we get out of this old mentality of, well, this means this, so that must mean that. Because we're starting to step into a new era of multidimensionality. We each have different ways of lucidity, of lucidly interacting with these dimensions, realities, subsets. And each of us brings to the table a different way of interacting with it, associating with it. And I'm hearing word association. So for example, if I say a word, this is kind of what I was going to draw earlier. And let's say I've used this before, but let's say I used the word apple. when I think of apple, my word association and all of the things that means is very different than someone else's, even though we both know what an apple is. You might hate apples. I might love apples. How do you like them apples? See where I'm going with this? So I say apple, and you might go, ugh, my least favorite fruit. And when in actuality, I'm thinking Adam's apple, which makes me think of Adam and Eve, which makes me think of, right, the body or Adam and Eve, or then it leads me to the tree of life. And then it leads me to the toroidal field. And then it leads me, so I share this because that's how my brain works. And I am being encouraged to share that with anyone listening to these videos so that you guys can play or recognize where you might be doing this as well. It might not be that you're doing it in the same style, right, that I'm playing, but it might be that it's something that you haven't recognized yet to learn to play with through synchronicity or through word association or through the pictures that come into our minds from this type of non-linear communication, even though I am communicating in a somewhat linear fashion. All right, back to the wordplay. And it is difficult at times to keep this in a playful way and yet interactive way and yet non-linear conceptualization and packaging it in something that can still be conceptualized. For in this type of wordology, this word add-on ideology, this word add-on pathology, the way in which we create the paths can seem out of alignment and can seem whimsical at times. And this is exactly why it is being expressed in this way, for in this whimsical display or fantastic expression, or what some may call delusional expression, actually holds a baseline frequency that attaches to the terminology in such a way that it creates a frequency that can literally be felt and put on display. It can be seen for those with eyes to see in this way, for it isolates a pattern or frequency in which the brain is able to make contact with the vibration or the frame in which the word is structured and held within. For it is not about the words or the vocabulary in which the words are being expressed fully. It is more about the full expression of the way in which the words are being expressed from the vibration and frequency that they are being expressed or expelled from. For our language holds an activation, and as we tune into these activating principles and the ways in which these this information is spread out in this particular particle exchange, it creates a map. The brain then lines up or allows itself to see with an ocular, I'm hearing so much around this ocular expression. Also what I'm being shown is it gives us the ability to see when other players, how they're playing the game. So if we start to focus on how this language is utilized, we're able to use our ocular, I'm hearing divination. Boy, this is a big play on words. I know it's hard to explain, but sometimes when I say a word, you can see it, right? You see a picture. You see something associated with it through your brain mapping system. Well, that's happening when we watch television. It's happening when we listen to the news. It's happening when we read an article. And so we begin to hear and see with our senses and recognize the pattern and word patterning disorders that are being created in order to create a shock system vocabulary. And I'm hearing shock the monkey. Shock the monkey. So it's a reference to monkey mind, and it's a patterning that has caused us to reorganize our reality in such a way that we are displaying or projecting that reality based on disorder, which seems like order. Wasn't planning on going here, but hey, let's just play. This word disorder comes from a particular etymology, and the etymology has a particular reference pattern. It has a beginning, if you will, which comes from order. Ironically, yet you add 3 letters in front of the letter geometry order, and it creates the opposite of order. And this seems elementary, dear Watson, I always say this, yet it may seem like elementary school, yet this is elementary to how our physics operate, or the physical interpretation of our physical world and realm. For we are in a different world than what we are used to interacting in. Meaning I'm just going to go into flow. I mean, I'm in flow, but I'm really about to let it rip. Okay. Our geometrics within our genome have ramped up. Therefore, the geometry in which our genome, our DNA, our genetic computation and molecular acceleration and frequency, and that which we are binding with, those binding codes that have kept us bound within a spelling binder, within a binder full of information that was spelled out for us, that we were focused on sending our signal back into to add more to the folder, to keep things neatly enclosed within this package, is no more. We have blown out the door, so to speak. And with this door wide open, I'm seeing a plane, the door's blown off and everything's getting like sucked out of it. And then all of a sudden, everything's like floating around us. Like we have all of this alphabet soup a little bit, but that has to do with our reality. We have blown off the doors, and our ability to access more is coming at us from all angles. And so many of us are having difficulty lining up and angulating with the proper geometric configuration in order to put together the pieces of the puzzle. For we are not recognizing that our molecular patterning is reorganizing within itself. And as our molecular patterning and coding or codex and geometrical alignments, that's a play on words, metrics, geometric, and yeah, I'm hearing just triangulations. Like if we look at the patterning in our DNA, if we look at the cells in our body, everything is changing in order to grow, essentially. And this is a new way of understanding our reality. And so while the old matrix or complex of numbers is being pumped in or piped in or pumped at us, we are simultaneously pumping it out. I'm hearing a bilge pump. So if you've ever been around boats, a bilge pump, like if the water fills up, it pumps it out. So the water's coming in and the bilge pump turns on to pump it out simultaneously so that it doesn't overflow. But what I'm seeing is we've got this mix of both old water and new water, and we're trying to make sense of this new reality that is a merge of both of these. And it's almost, I'm hearing brackish. Ooh, that's a play on words. I'm seeing the salt water and fresh water, right, are merging, dirty water, clean water. But I'm also hearing brackets, almost like algebraic equations are actually also in the process of resetting. And I'm not sure exactly what that's referring to, but everything, right? And so as we try to make sense of this chaos and disorder, we find ourselves trying to make something in order to understand the disorder, and yet within this, there is a certain amount of disarray. So the energies are causing us to fray at the connection points, at the synaptic the synapses. So I'm seeing like the conjunction points. Like part of the problem that they're not lining up is because we're afraid. Like our wires are sticking out everywhere, and so we're missing the connection point. Or what I'm hearing is more accurate is that there's a the energy is being leaked out. So recognizing that we are in a transitionary period may be a good way of looking at it in order to create a linearization out of this particular geometric expression of wordage. And so even as we speak now, the channel, me, actually is merging together the old way of channeling, the old way of communication with the new way of communication, trying to do so in such a way that it allows for a new organization of communication of the principles of what it is we are trying to communicate. This too is challenging. And so we are all being presented with a code or a new Pandora's box, you may call it, with some of our old toys and some of our new toys. And it will be almost impossible to connect the pieces together, for they are not connectable yet. Let us play with this. We are changing so rapidly and at such a rapid place that the new toys that we are picking up and looking at, that we have yet to understand, will already be out of our hand, meaning they will already be a thing of the past in a moment. And therefore, the old toys are completely obsolete from one perspective, yet we are hanging on to them because they make us feel more at home. I'm seeing like our security blanket. We're familiar with it, so we're going to keep hanging on to it and figure out a way to make it fit, even though it's completely obsolete. And the new ones that we're trying to play with, they aren't even up to speed, because that's how quickly we're shifting and changing. And so patience is key right now, and the ability to patiently, I'm seeing, wrap the wires and then reconnect them. So allowing ourselves to kind of tie up the loose ends from one perspective, and then gather our energy before we make all of the connections. And this is a time, what I'm hearing is it's just a difficult time right now to really fully make these connections. It's happening. It just feels frazzled. It feels disconnected. It feels discordant. But simultaneously, it feels, while all of this stickiness is going on, for many of us, it feels simultaneously incredible. Like we can feel the possibilities. We can feel the potential. We can see it. We just can't quite 100% drop in some cases, because it's not the world that we're used to playing in. That's the message. It's almost like it's just a different dimension. And so when we enter into a new dimension, it's different rules, it's different ways of communication, and our bodies are going through a restoration, meaning we still have the old framework, right? But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I want to clarify. Part of this message was talking about getting rid of the old toys, but that's going to come. So it doesn't mean throw everything out and start over, because there are still the basic framework. It's like when you build a house and you take down all the walls, but you still have that outline or the frame to hold the pattern. That is still there from what I'm being shown. The difference is that we are now creating a completely different way to organize from that framework. I'm talking about the quantum right now a bit. I'm talking about structuring our work life, our family life, how we interact with others, how we view our reality, things are getting wonkier and wonkier because the framework that we're used to looking at, it isn't the same, but we're expecting it to be the same. So we're looking for it to be the same, and yet it isn't. So we're going to continually be confused at times, potentially, by what we're seeing, right? By what we are creating. Like, how did this happen? All right, well, here it is. All right, so that was a very quantum way of sharing this message, but I guess that's what we're going to go with today. So hopefully someone felt those words and resonated with it, and to be continued into the next one. Namaste.